Welcome back. In the earlier part, we discussed the attributes of the primal feminine, and now we're going to discuss the primary attributes of the primal masculine. The primal masculine is within each man and woman alike, and he is our catalyst and our structure. He's our organizer. He's the schematic. He's the tempering. He defines, do this here. He does not dabble or dwell in the ethereal realms of the non-specific, like the elemental realms of the primary feminine. He is the opposite, harnessing what the primal feminine sees, and he creates coherent thought and form and structure out of it. And like the primal feminine, his greatest strength is also his greatest weakness. The very rigidity and structure that he brings to the table also prevents him from seeing all the feminine sees. But those are also his strengths. He offers the blueprint of manifestation, the structure of it, but not the components. That is the domain of the primal feminine. And again, we're not talking about men here, but about the primal masculine that is within each and every man and woman alike. Okay, here's an easier way to begin to grasp it. The primal feminine is like a giant bucket of Legos, and the primal masculine is the ability to sort the pieces and make something useful and meaningful out of them. Do you see? Without the primal feminine, he doesn't have access to the Legos. But without the primal masculine to give the Legos meaning and structure, the Legos might just create a big old mess on your floor. They need each other to become that which they already are. And we have both of these components within each of us. But mostly we identify and use only one component, which leaves us trying to balance our wholeness externally through another. This is the intuitive feeling behind the idea of twin flames, and also behind the thought of couples referring to one another as their better half. We know these things, just not consciously until now. Once more, this has nothing to do with the body that you walk around in or the sexuality that you feel comfortable with. These are universal spiritual components of your primal being. Sometimes it's very easy to see which we lean more towards, but others who have begun to already balance these may have more tempered components of both, and so they may be a little more subtle to note. But in general, if your primal masculine is dominant, you might have the reputation for being cool, possibly even somewhat detached. You are often seen as being direct or decisive or sometimes calculating. Typically, you prefer an economy of words. Less is more. You can also be seen as being insensitive sometimes. You often have the preference of adhering to what you see as logic and either often avoid or negate things that you do not recognize or give value to. Sometimes you're surprised at the thoughts and opinions of others regarding what you do and say because of a habit of unconsciously culling that which does not seem useful to you. You find your habit is to do or experience more than being introspective. So, do you see how the attributes of the primal masculine make it a mechanism through which structure and initiative can easily arise? Everything about it is geared toward those things. So, loosely, that is the primal masculine. But what about the primal feminine? Well, if your primal feminine is dominant, you are often seen as being a sensitive individual. You feel sensitive, and things can easily inflame you or hurt you. They can also easily make you happy. You somewhat float through life experiences, preferring to navigate by feeling. And you may find yourself feeling vulnerable and defensive at times because your intuition alerts you to your fluidity. But you often find the ways you try to compensate for fluidity frustrating to you and unsatisfactory, and sometimes result in lashing out or going in circles more than you would truly like, but you just can't seem to help yourself. You also enjoy expressing yourself with words, whether or not you think you're good at them, and you express yourself often. You are intuitive, even more than you often recognize, because much of what you sense gets lost in a jumble that is difficult to directly access. Yet, you still very much sense the echo of those things. Despite lots of discussion and introspection, you are often frustrated or unsure about moving forward with your thoughts. Do you hear yourself within some of these descriptions? Some of you will hear mostly one or the other, while others will hear themselves echoed between the two. And you have to be very, very honest with yourself to accurately see the parts of you that are the primal masculine and the primal feminine. But if you can do that, it will explain much about how you respond to your daily life. Okay, but going back to the attributes, do you see how the attributes of the primal feminine make it a fountain of potential? And yet, that potential is without form, because that structure of form is the primal masculine's job. So, together, 1 plus 1 doesn't just equal 2. When you bring the primal masculine and the primal feminine into balance, that 1 plus 1 equals the infinite. Together, they create exponentially. And when we bring them together out of the bedroom and in our everyday waking moments, the road rises up to meet you. And the first of several handy, specific tools that I'm going to offer you is the topic of the next video. And this tool is a special one because with it, you end so much suffering and unpleasantness on your storyboard. And your life moves into a dramatically more even keel. How does that sound? It's wonderful. You become empowered, and in the harmonic way of the universe, you pass the offer of that empowerment along to everyone you meet, wordlessly. That's what you set into motion when you begin to balance your primal masculine and your primal feminine. Please join me to find out about what I call the Rule of 4.